This is episode number 23 of I Love This Album, and this is going to be Sacrifice, the Ones I Condemn. It's not going to be Sacrifice for Determination. A lot of people might think, if you know Sacrifice, you might think that For Determination is their signature album, which it probably is, but it's not my personal favorite album. To me, the absolute best Sacrifice album is this one right here, The Ones I Condemn from 2009. And I'm gonna start by making, I think, a pretty bold statement. I'm gonna say this is the best metal album in Canadian music history. Of all the metal bands in Canada, all the albums that have been created, The Ones I Condemn is the best. I wouldn't quite say it's the best album by a Canadian band ever. I'm going to talk about that in some other episode about my favorite album by a Canadian band ever. But Sacrifice, The Ones I Condemn is, in my book, the best Canadian, not just thrash metal album, the best metal album ever. Don't forget about, I was going to say Voivod, Annihilator, Razor, Anvil, whoever else you want to say. No, it's Sacrifice, The Ones I Condemn. I have a very long, and of all these, my history with Sacrifice, very long, and the only band that I'm going to talk about that I have, I guess, a personal history with, I'm from Toronto, and Sacrifice is from Toronto. Specifically, I'm from Scarborough, and Sacrifice, personally, were from, I think they all lived in Toronto. And I first heard Sacrifice in 1984, I get maybe early 85, I'm not exactly sure. They had a couple of songs that were played on some metal shows back then. I remember Turn in Your Grave, Decapitation, Homicidal Breath. I can't remember which ones of those were on their demo that came out in 84 or early 85, but I heard those songs on some of these metal shows, and I bought the demo when it came out, and then Torment and Fire came out in 86, etc. My first Sacrifice show, the first time I ever saw them live, as I reach for my prop, is right there. This was, as you can see, October 19th, 1985. This is a place in Toronto called Larry's Hideaway. This was, and I'd seen Motley Crue and Y&T the night before. I think this was my first time ever seeing back-to-back concerts. I was only 15 here in 1985. And Sacrifice was opening at Larry's Hideaway for Razor. Razor was playing a show and also recording the video for Evil Invaders at this show right here. And Sacrifice was opening in another band called Lethal Presence. And I was only, as I said, I was 15 at the time. And Mike Campagnolo, the bass player from Razor, a friend and I had kind of got to know him a little bit. I'm not sure how, but we contacted him, and he snuck us in. He told us to meet us around the back of Larry's Hideaway, which was a bar in Toronto on Carlton, across from Maple Leaf Gardens. And so Mike snuck us in, which was a really big deal at the time when you're 15 to go to a bar where you had to be 19 to get in and to see a concert like this. So we had to kind of lay low. I think we had to stay upstairs. I think the concert part of Larry's was in the basement. So we had to kind of hang out upstairs. So anyway, so this is my first time, there it is again, seeing Sacrifice, October 19th, 1985. And what was really funny about this, really cool, a cool story about this was I took pictures at that concert. I still take pictures at concerts. I've been taking pictures kind of shitty, I think, in many cases. I'm not a professional photographer, but I've always loved taking pictures of anything, not just concerts. And I had one of those little 110, the name of the film was 110. I don't know what the 110 referred to, but I had one of those. It was like a long, narrow, shallow camera with the roll of film, the 110 film, and I took some pictures of Sacrifice and Razor and Lethal Presence. And I took the roll of film in to get developed at Black's. If anybody in Canada is watching this, if anybody's watching this, Black's Photography, which was a Canadian photography store in Canada, maybe still is, I don't know. And I took it into Black's at Morningside Mall, which was at Morningside in Lawrence. I'm telling you a lot of useless information. Morningside Road and Lawrence Avenue in Scarborough. And I took it in to get it developed. That was when you used to have to wait maybe 3-4 days, maybe a week to see your pictures. and to find out how shitty they really were. And so I went with my friend Jeff Simpsons, and we went to this concert together. And I think I was with him when we went to Morningside Mall to get my pictures picked up, and then we were going to go to downtown Toronto, and you take the bus, the 54A bus, more useless information. We would then transfer at Kingston Road and take the 86A bus to Kennedy subway station. And somewhere along there, maybe it was before that, Rob Urbanati and Joe Rico from Sacrifice got on the bus. They got on the 54A bus, which, we were 15 years old. So these guys to us were like big rock stars, and we had just seen them in concert, shortly before. And I actually had the pictures with me. So I went up to them and I, told them a little story maybe and showed them the pictures. And I remember them looking through the pictures. They thought it was pretty cool. So that was pretty cool. And then people like to say fast forward. If you go forward to 2019, I've been living in Mexico since 2006. By great luck and by the great graces of their drummer, Gus Pinn, Gus invited me. He knew I was coming to Toronto to visit for Christmas in December 2019. And Sacrifice was going to be rehearsing for the first time, first full band rehearsal, first time they had played together, and I think in about 2 years or something. And they were going to be, because I guess some of them, I think Joe Rico lives in somewhere in Michigan. Scott Watts, the bass player, lives in Vancouver. So I guess they were all coming home for Christmas. I was going to be there. So Gus, what a great and nice and generous and thoughtful, considerate invitation this was. He knew I was a big fan. He invited me to come to their rehearsal. I think because my chances of seeing Sacrifice are not very good. They're not a touring band. They only, in the best of times, forget about the pandemic, best of times, they're only playing a couple of shows a year. They do maybe a few festivals. They played in Japan in somewhat recent years, Maryland, a show maybe here or there in Toronto. They've never ever played in Mexico. Maybe they never will. I really, really hope they do. So I think Gus maybe took pity on me and said, this poor guy lives in Mexico. He's never going to see us. So he invited me to their rehearsal in Toronto in 2019 and Christmas 2019. And oh man, that was as good for me as a Sacrifice concert. They rehearsed for maybe 2 or 3 hours. I hung out with them, talked to them a little bit. Very, very friendly guys, nice guys. They played, I'm not going to give too much away, but they did play 3 new songs, I think. I remember the titles of them, but I won't say them. Maybe they've changed since then. But they sound like Sacrifice. And so I hope that Sacrifice is going to be, and they are recording a new album or EP. So I hope that can come out soon. Now getting to this album too, I'm going to put this prop away. Getting to the ones I condemn, as I said, I think a lot of people, I've mentioned this a couple of times when I've talked about Death Angel, Frolic Through the Park, and when I talked about Testament with the formation of Damnation. A lot of bands, especially thrash bands, their first album was good, and then the second album was just miles above it, like a completely different stratosphere. Whatever stratosphere is, I'm not exactly sure. It's something bigger than an atmosphere. And I think this was the same thing with Sacrifice. Torment and Fire was a great album. Although looking back on it as they progressed, you could kind of see that it was similar in the same vein as the big four: A Fistful of Metal, Show No Mercy, Kill 'Em All, and Killing Is My Business. Death Angel, The Ultraviolence, maybe Exodus, Bonded by Blood. No, I don't know about that. But where there was such a step up from the first to the second, and Forward Determination was no exception. And then to make another comparison to Testament, as I talked about when I did Testament, The Formation of Damnation, which is by far, not even close, that's my favorite Testament album by far. This came out so much later into their career, and I'd kind of forgotten about both bands, about Testament and Sacrifice. And then they came out with these albums. The Ones I Condemn was the first. This came out in 2009. This was the first Sacrifice album since 1993, I think, which was Apocalypse Inside, which their drummer at that point was Mike Rosenthal, who was a friend of mine when we were kids. I lived around the corner of Scarborough Golf Club Road and Lawrence Avenue in Toronto, and I lived at number 10 Mayhill Crescent, and Mike was my friend. He lived at number 21, so he lived across from me and like 3 doors down, and we were friends when we were kids, and then he became the drummer of Sacrifice. So Apocalypse Inside 93, I think, or 94, 92, I'm not sure, was the last Sacrifice album before this. And then when this came out, I had no idea. This came from out of nowhere. I heard this from, they did a cover, Sacrifice did a cover of Anthem by Rush. And it was on a split 7-inch single with another Canadian band called Propagandhi, who did, I can't remember what song they did. And I thought, holy shit, new Sacrifice. I hadn't heard of Sacrifice for, at that point, 16 years, something like that. And so I heard it. And I was never a Rush fan. They were okay for me. I was never a big Rush fan. And I had never heard Anthem before in my life, so I heard Sacrifice's version of it. Loved it. I couldn't believe how heavy it was. I ended up listening to the Rush version later, which is pretty good, pretty heavy song for Rush. And then I forgot to turn the sound of my phone off. And then so then I found out that they had done, or around the same time they were doing a full-length album, which was I'm not sure of the timeline, which was the ones I Condemn. And so I thought, all right, I'll give them a chance. It's been a long time since I've been into Sacrifice. And so I got this, I downloaded this album and loved it. It was so much better than anything Sacrifice had done before. And I was already a big Sacrifice fan. And I thought it was just amazing that a band that had been around that started in like 1984, this was in 2009, 25 years later, and had been apart, hadn't played together for at least on an album since 1993, 16 years. Amazing that they put out an album of such high quality. This is, and I think Sacrifice in general, but I think they cemented it with this album, is for sure the best thrash metal band, or let's say the best metal band in Canada. Better than, they proved it with this. I might have thought Razor before that. Some people would say Voivod, Annihilator, some of the other ones I mentioned before. This cemented Sacrifice as the all-time kings of Canadian thrash metal, or just Canadian metal, period. So getting to this album, the first song is We Will Prevail, which is an instrumental. And now when I first heard it, I seriously, I downloaded it as I said, and when I first played it, I thought, I checked, I don't know if it was on my computer or a device or an MP3 player or something that I had at the time. I could have sworn it was Shroud of Urine by Exodus. And I still think that, the beginning, the rumbling bass and the drums for the first 4, 5, 6, 7 songs, 7 seconds of the song, sounds identical to Shroud of Urine from Tempo of the Damned by Exodus, which I could also maybe put in the same category as the ones I Condemn in the Formation of Damnation. And it's amazing. I'm not saying Sacrifice ripped them off. I'm just saying it sounds identical. And so it's just a short song, 2.5 minutes, maybe like an instrumental. And something about this that I'll say about, except they had the line, "We will prevail." So not maybe truly an instrumental. Was I'll say Rob Urbanati, the singer, guitarist, and I think really he is Sacrifice in large part. I'd put him up there. He's like the perfect thrash metal singer. I'd say him and what's his name? John Connolly from Nuclear Assault. Maybe Paul Bailoff. I'm not saying that these guys all sound the same, but they've all got the voice, the perfect thrash metal voice. And what I'll say about Rob Urbanati, and I'll try to remember it in a few other songs too, he's got this cool thing that he does. I don't know what you would call it, like a cadence or something. I don't know if he got it from James Hetfield or I think Chuck Billy has it a little bit too, where he, at the end of words or the end of a syllable, he kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Hopefully, if I don't know how many people are watching, but you'd know what I'm talking about. For example, here, he doesn't just say, "We will prevail." He says, "Prevail." And he does that in some other songs, like "Child" in some song, I can't remember. But what a great thrash metal cadence that is, to give the at the end of words. So that's "We Will Prevail." Next, The Ones I Condemn, the title track. This was strange. When I downloaded this, I had listened to it for quite a while before I actually bought the CD. And the reason, or I got the CD, because this was, 10 years ago or more, when shipping CDs to Mexico or shipping anything to Mexico was very, very expensive and took ages. You might wait months for something. So I just listened to the copy that I downloaded for probably a couple of years before I got it. When I got married in 2011, my good friend from Toronto came for the wedding, and I said, this was 2 years after it was out, I said, bring me this album, The Ones I Condemn. So I don't know if I ordered it from Amazon to his house and then he brought it with me, or if he went to a store and bought it, but that was like a wedding gift. Best wedding gift ever, was The Ones I Condemn. So the version that I had, the downloaded version, and then of the song, The Ones I Condemn, it was a little bit different. And I've never heard anybody mention this. It's not like everybody's talking about Sacrifice, but if you've heard the song, it starts with the and then the vocal comes in, the ones that I condemn. And when I got the album version, it's slightly different. And I think the whole vocals are like, I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but the vocals come in one beat. I can't remember if it's on the CD or the downloaded version, which is which, but on one version or the other, they come in like one, I guess you'd say one beat earlier or one beat later, whichever version you're talking about. Very unusual. It's like it was mixed differently. They both work, but they are slightly different. Maybe if anybody knows what I'm talking about. I know nobody's watching, but interesting. So The Ones I Condemn, it's the title track. And it has a great, they call these things mosh parts in the middle, and in the middle of it, it kind of slows down a bit, and it's just like a riff. And then, this is another one with this cadence that Rob Urbanati does. When it kind of goes into double time, it's a da-na, 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 come on! And he doesn't just say come on, he says come on! I love that little cadence that he does. And then it gets very fast. And I swear he says something about Beetlejuice. And when he starts singing the fast part, it's prosecute Beetlejuice. Let me check the lyrics. I know he's not saying Beetlejuice, and I know the lyrics say something that I don't think that's what he says. What is the lyrics? Where is it? I can't find it. It says in the lyrics, prosecute the transgression. To me, it sounds like he says, prosecute Beetlejuice. I don't get transgression, but feel the wrath of vengeance breaking you, unforgiving, unrelenting. Powerful song. Every song on this album, I could say that about. And every song is thrash. Every single song is fast on this album. Next one is Give Me Justice. I will always seek an eye for a fucking eye. Open the window of opportunity. Give Me Justice. That's a great song. Every song is great. What's next? I Need Good Light here. Oh, The Great Wall. That right from the start. I hate the word epic. People way overuse and misuse the word epic. But The Great Wall, just the intro to it, it sounds very grand, very epic, big. That's as I look down from this stone wall. That could be a favorite. I'm going to talk about my favorite later. Let me check the lyrics here. This is another one that he does, that Rob Urbanati does the cadence thing, I think. Is it this one? No, what song is it where he says, I can't remember. Maybe it's not this song. I wish I were more prepared. As I look down from this stone wall with my arrogance, as you now fall, the art of war is to deceive. That could be a favorite. And then it bleeds into The Great Wall, bleeds into Tetragrammaton, and Tetragrammaton, as many albums of my youth and maybe even as an adult led me to do, was to run to a dictionary or a dictionary app and find out what Tetragrammaton is. And I don't remember what it is. I looked it up years ago. It has something to do with Hebrew letters or Hebrew language or something like that. Like the letters something related to God. I don't know. I'd never heard the word before, tetragrammaton, but it's a fucking cool word, whatever it is. Tetragrammaton. This is one that I think you think it's not going to get fast, and then is it this one that it's kind of quiet in the middle, and then there's a quiet guitar part, and then it's is it this one that's all right? I think it is that one, and then it gets very fast and thrashy. So those two songs are, to me, almost one. The Great Wall and Tetragrammaton, they bleed together. Amazing. Next, was it Atrocity? Another fast one. Not much to say about that one. Atrocity Insane. It's called Atrocity, but then in the end he says Atrocity Insane. Insane. Hiroshima, the blast begins, its devastating wave. In seconds, 80,000 die. What's that lyric? The beast has risen, ground zero to the sky. In seconds, 80,000 die. It's obviously about the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. And that's another one that has just a big intro. Very, I want to say explosive, not because the song is about an atomic bomb, but it's just a explosive song. After Hiroshima, The Devil's Martyr. The Devil's Martyr is just it's two very, very short song, 2:20, 2:40, 2.5, something like that, of pure, just unrelenting. The whole album is thrash metal, but the Devil's Martyr is thrash from beginning to end. It features Dave Hewson from Slaughter on not that Slaughter, the other Slaughter. Or maybe it is the Slaughter that you're thinking of. Maybe he's not from the other Slaughter. He's not Mark Slaughter. Dave Hewson from Slaughter sings the verses, and then Rob Urbanati sings the choruses. It's and then there's an alternate version of it, which I downloaded sometime after. I don't know. There's, I guess, different versions of it that Rob Urbanati sings the whole song. But on this version that I have, it's Dave Hewson doing the verses, and then Rob Urbanati does the choruses. And Jed Simon, who, to be honest, I didn't know who he was. He's credited with guitar on here, and it turns out that I looked him up at the time. He's from Strapping Young Lad, and a couple of other bands I can't remember, but I didn't know him. And then this song is just pure thrash and crazy wailing, dive bombing, furious guitar solos. Very, very quick. And I love the last chorus is the last verse is what's the first word? All I need sometimes is pentagram, pentagon, Satan lives in religion. Crescent moon, crucifix, terrorist, 666. That's fucking metal. That's thrash metal right there. Sacrifice doesn't really sing about Satan or 666 or anything like that. Maybe they did on Torment and Fire, but that's great. That's Dave Hewson singing that part. Pentagram, pentagon, Satan lives in religion. I can't sing like that. Pentagram, pentagon, Satan lives in religion. Crescent moon, crucifix, terrorist, 666, and then Rob comes in with the choruses. I can feel the pain, the blood, it flows like rain. That's a great song. That could be a favorite too, but it's not quite. Ultimate Power Corrupts is next, and it's thrasher right from the beginning, very fast. Ultimate Power Corrupts, and then 5 seconds in it gets very fast and thrashy. The last song, not including any of these bonus songs, Desolation Alive. Yes, the best song on this album and the best song in Sacrifice's catalog. In my opinion, it's long. It's, again, I hate the word epic, but I found that I like these long songs, Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Master of Puppets, and I especially like songs that have a lot of changes and different parts. It's not just long, like all the songs on Saint Anger that are just repetitive and they're 8 minutes long. Desolation Alive, it starts with kind of a weird sound effect and a quiet guitar, and then it comes in, and then I guess that you would call it the main riff. I always imagine it this is stupid, but I imagine in a movie a guy with walking around a room like with a baseball bat, and the guy, he's in total control, but he's also very, very violent, and he's just swinging the bat, destroying everything in the room, and in a very controlled, very methodical manner. And it's just stomping. What again? I forget the first line. Once I get the first line, a vacant stare that cannot be forgotten. Emptiness drained your body. The emptiness of a body drained of soul and life. I deliver sorrow. I am termination. I induce the end. I am desolation. And then it changes. It has a lot of changes, and then it goes quiet again, and then it goes back. And this is maybe a strange comparison, but I listen to this. I listen to this album pretty regularly, at least a couple of times a year, the full thing. And over the years, maybe I realized this somewhat recently. It kind of reminds me of, very stupid comparison maybe, to How Many More Times by Led Zeppelin, and maybe also Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Iron Maiden, just because it starts here and then it goes around and it has many changes, and you think it's going to go, it keeps going in a different direction, and then it comes back and it goes back to where it started. It does a full circle. I think, and maybe a lot of songs are like that, especially longer songs. When it comes back to when you're alone, I am right behind you. Turn around and look into the endless void. That's when it goes back to how it was in the beginning. And then I deliver sorrow. I am termination. I induce the end. I am desolation alive. Best Sacrifice song to me. They should, in the very few shows that Sacrifice play, that to me, that's their signature song. That's their whatever. That's their master puppets, whatever you want to call it. So that's Sacrifice, the ones I condemn. Now I should say just one last thing for anybody that's watching. They do have a new song out. It came out. They put it out around Christmas, just before Christmas, called World War V. The first song that I know of that's been, and there's going to be many, they're written about the COVID situation, or the coronavirus, and very, very clear that that's what it's about. It's just a demo version. They actually put out two versions. They put out one, and then a month or two later, they put out a little bit of it sounded a little bit cleaner, and also at the very beginning, they put kind of a fade from that transition into the fast part. There was a little sound of fade. I'm not sure what to call it. So Sacrifice is going to be back in my life again, hopefully this year. Again, I'm not sure if they're doing a full album or just an EP, or maybe even just like a maxi single with 3 songs or something. But I know I've heard at least 3 new songs, and so that's it for Sacrifice. So again, I always feel like I have to say something to wrap this up. I don't know what else to say except that I love Sacrifice and I love this album.